All right, hope everybody had a great weekend, and this week's off to a great start. As we continue talking about the self, we definitely won't finish this chapter today. Should have it finished by Thursday. It is possible, young people, it might even stretch into next Tuesday. For those who, again, look at the syllabus just before they read the Bible in the morning, as I'm sure all of you do, you'll note that I'm a bit behind as it lays out in this, as it's laid out in the syllabus. Don't worry about me, Michael. I'm gonna get caught up. Please make sure that you stay on course with the reading. And as I said, I think and I hope that you'll find this in the next chapter in particular very interesting. And please be mindful about how, even though our final exam in this class is not cumulative, a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in the second half of the course is going to really build off of some of these things that we're going to talk about here. When we talk about things like aggression, for example, like a large part of aggression is, when adults are aggressive in terms of abusing children, people get into fights all the time. A lot of that is really issues of processing things that they need to, issues or challenges that they had in terms of their self-development that are a lot of times being acted out as adults. These connections won't make as much sense if you don't have a good grasp of these early chapters. So please make sure that you stay in tune with the reading. If there's old lectures or anything that you may need to go over, as always, this lecture is being recorded and will be available to you. I really encourage you to avail yourself to that information, and not the day before the midterm exam. And as always, anything that I can do to help enhance your understanding, don't hesitate to let me know. So we're talking about the self-esteem is a component of that. It is an evaluative component where we, again, evaluate and we take esteem of how we measure up with other people in given areas. I take that back. Let me take that back. Even though it's in many ways socially derived, it is not only in regard to how you compare with other people. It's not only. It's influenced by that. It's not influenced by that, but it's not exclusively driven by external comparisons. Again, we talked about, so again, as I discussed before, make sure, again, you stay up to speed with the reading. We talked about self-schemas last week. And if you don't understand self-schema, these concepts won't make as much sense. So make sure that you go back and review that. And when you take notes here today, make sure that you're not only taking notes on what's on the screen, but what's being said. And then make sure that, before Thursday's class, sometime between now and Thursday's class, go back and look at these notes. Just kind of jog your memory. I have to do that for myself. So I would encourage you all to do the same. So we got many self-schemas, things that, make up who we are. Some of these we view very favorably, some we view less favorably. Self-esteem, again, is a fluctuating measure for all of us. We see this, for example, with college students. And again, in science, we try and look at patterns. This ain't just for Black college students. This ain't just for middle-class college students. This ain't just for female college students. That these patterns hold pretty true amongst college students in general. And almost everybody, your first weeks of your freshman year, you was a man in high school, Michael. You get to college and the self-esteem takes a little bit of a dip. Does it do this for everybody? No. Jakira was instantly popular the moment she got on campus and really involved in all types of activities. Her self-esteem may not have wavered a bit. But for many people, I say mine's kind of I was very confident my freshman year. Sophomore, junior year, it wasn't quite as promising, dog. But that's neither here nor there. But for most people, again, it's a very, it's a different culture. It's a different environment. You're not sure how to react in that. Once you find your way, oddly enough, it goes back up. Junior year, man, you're getting close to graduation. Like, damn, am I really ready for this? Am I finna graduate? Am I finna pass Dr. Muhammad's social psychology class? Oh my God, what the fuck? Self-esteem you really low. Seeing you though, oh man, it's all good. I'm finna get into my career. I already got my dance move planned out for when I go go across the graduation stage. I know Dr. McNeely gonna get mad, but I didn't have to endure Dr. Muhammad podcast for years, so he's gonna have to feel me on this one. So again, it ebbs and flows almost with all humans. Jakira, I want to warn you, when you go get to grad school, this is finna start all over again. Hopefully you're stronger than most, but most people, grad school, that first few months, that self-esteem be yeah, again, I know for sure that was the case with me and almost everybody I know. And it's natural. Again, like, going into new environments. And this is important for you all to know, because a lot of times, Shakira, when we have hits our self-esteem or going through mental health challenges, we do it in isolation. So we think that only I am going through this. And all my classmates, they got it all figured out. No, almost never the case. And keep in mind, right? So look, hear me out here. Make sure that you're hearing, not just writing stuff down. Then when we talk about our social development, and we're beginning, like, we're walking you through many stages, Ron, like through the course of human development. That the first part, before you, we're going to talk about later on how you form healthy relationships. But all that got to start with you, young man. The self. And in looking at our development, Maisha, we definitely, as social scientists, we give a lot of credence to the role of environment. What kind of neighborhood you were raised in? Were you raised in an abusive home? Were you told that you were smart and beautiful as a young child? Were you given responsibility? Were you given like mature, grown-up type responsibilities when you were younger, Jakira, that maybe matured you faster than other kids? So our environment, and the people that socialize us play an important role. However, there's a rich school of thought, Ron, that also says that God has biologically wired us to have certain things in us, and the need for self-esteem, according to one theory. And what does a theory attempt to do again, young people? What does a theory attempt to do?
Explain cause and effect.
Oh. Yeah. All right. Very good, Jakira Anderson. Ron McLeod. So this is just one theory, one explanation of cause and effect of how and why we get our self-esteem. And this school of thought, Michael says that there's something in us where we need it. So again, you need to breathe or you'll die. You need to have water or you'll die. I may really want to watch the NFL, but I don't need to. I may drink more Red Bulls than I should, but I don't need to have it biologically. According to this view, we need to have a strong self-esteem for our survival. It's a really interesting school of thought. Under this view, when you hear the word inherent, Michael, when you hear the word inherent, it means that you're born this way. Like, again, you can't learn it. Like a porcupine can't learn how to grow spikes. You can't learn how to spin a web. It's in you. Almost everything that human beings do, Jakira, we have to learn. Again, we think that it's inherent that we learn how to eat, that we learn how to walk, we learn how to talk. No, those things are not. But according to social media theory, and as always, Michael, when you see something written in italics, study that closely. And these are things that when again, learning means that you're really taking these things in and you're making them your own. So in an active learning environment, I will expect that when we talk about these concepts a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, that you have some understanding of these concepts. You don't have to be perfect. I don't think I've ever had a perfect day as your professor, but give me some effort and really try. I know I also ain't had not one day as your professor where I have mailed it into y'all and I have not given y'all my full and optimal effort. I can promise y'all that. All the students before y'all too. So just give me your effort, man. That's it. The concepts again are real. I think you'll find them straightforward. You all have already demonstrated, you already have messed up and showing me how intelligent y'all are. So Michael, it's important. It's impossible for you to convince me that you can't get this stuff. That ship is sailed. Now, y'all too smart for that. So if y'all ain't getting this stuff, my only conclusion, Maisha, is that you ain't been reading it enough, homie. Maybe that theory is wrong. Many theories have been wrong. Give me some evidence. So according to this, Shakira, there's a primitive need. It is wired into you to connect to other people. That it's not natural for human beings to go through the world alone. That don't mean that we can't be independent. That don't mean we need to be around people all the time. Like I surely, like, you know, I don't want to get married again. And there are many people around who be thinking like that. That's psychotic. That's crazy. Like, oh my God, you don't want to get married? You don't want to have children? Like, no, I'm good. That doesn't mean I want to be around people and I don't want companionship and I don't want partnership. I just don't, like, you know, I don't necessarily need to be around you every single day for that to happen. That's just me. And we'll talk about some of the things related to that later on. But I know for sure I have a need to connect with people. That's why, again, during times like this, right, where it's really, you know, we have to be very mindful when human beings are so isolated that, you know, it's times where, you know, you guys got to get out and, you know, fellowship with some other folks in some form. Because it's not natural. Like it does something to your brain if you're too isolated and your emotions as well. So according to social media theory, and I got you 1 second, Ron Anderson, this works on the premise, Shakira, like it's a meter wired inside of you where you can almost sense, and hear me out here, you can sense the level in which you're being accepted and rejected. We talked about, again, the low self-esteem in college, right? That one of the things, you know, in terms of like, anybody ever seen the film Higher Learning before? Anybody see the film Higher Learning? Jesus Christ. My poor young Black people, boy. Check that out, man. Like it's a movie. It's a John Singleton flick. Y'all seen Boys in the Hood, right? Who ain't seen Boys in the Hood in this class? Who has not seen Boys in the Hood? Reveal yourself. Okay, everybody seen Boys in the Hood, right? Okay, cool. John Singleton, who directed Boys in the Hood, the late great John Singleton, he directed Higher Learning too. I think Higher Learning, it was Poetic Justice, and Higher Learning came after that. Check out Higher Learning, man. It was a good film. Anyway, like one of the characters, he like had trouble kind of fitting in when he first got to college. And as a result of, you know, and he experienced some anxiety as a result of that. And what this speaks to is that we kind of get a sense of, like, you know, if people are like, you know, really feeling us or not. So you come to a new school, you come to a new situation. If people like are interacting with you, people being friendly, if, you know, you see other people going and hanging out and everything, but, you know, like after a while, I'm sure y'all got to college, you know, like, you know, be like, hey, Michael, we finna go run up to Chick-fil-A real quick. You want to come, dog? And a lot of times friendships should start from something like that, you know, something small and simple. Then that ain't it being your, you know, your homie for life. I was getting ready to say your NFL. Do a Google search on that if you're not familiar. You know, small things like that. But some people don't get those kind of invites. Like, hey, Ron, you know, it's going to be this party this weekend, dog. You should really come to this one. You know, so there's a, you know, so we have a meter in us, according to this theory, Maisha, where we can kind of sense if people are really vibing with us or not. Ron, you've been very patient. I'll elaborate on terror management theory in a moment.
I just wanted to speak on when you mentioned that, you know, from basically the theory that, you know, we are social animals and we need to socialize, right? I was just thinking that, like, one of my personal reinforcements for that I see is like solitary confinement in prison. Like, you know, they wouldn't do that if they didn't know that it had an effect on you, you know? So that, like, personally, I see that, and it's like, you know, even though this is just a theory and, you know, it can be disproven, I feel as if, you know, it's true to some degree because they use this method to break people down.
Well, excellent thinking. Again, right. All these theories that we're talking about, like, they've been applied in some ways that people in power in particular, I got you 1 second, Jakir, study human behavior all day, every day. Human beings are so incredibly predictable. We think we're so special and we're so unique. No, dog, you're not. People have gotten us all, like, you know, cats have gotten us all figured out and can manipulate your behavior. Unless, Ron, you understand yourself better than these people who are trying to manipulate you understand you. Jakir McLeod.
I was going to add on to it and speak even about like the pandemic and stuff and how well, I mean, some people have to do like isolation, like even specific more so with the school. You have people who have to do isolation, and then that takes away a lot of, social activities from them. And I don't know, it does a lot to the mind. So I just wanted to add on to that because I can understand that. That's why you got people who spend so much time on social media because that's their only social environment that they do have, and then they're comfortable to be who they are. But that gets deeper and deeper. But I just wanted to add on to that.
That social media analysis is a great one. Like it's one thing for people your age, but I'd be amazed all the time. And I got you 1 second, Miss Haynesworth, how like people my age be like, I mean, I'm like, dude, like I got a job and a career. Like, how's you on here all day? Like, what kind of life is you living? And then like, like I actually be having conversation, interacting with my people, like, so it'd be times like, hey, did you see my son? Nah, I didn't see your damn post, dog. You better tell me what happened. Like, oh, you didn't hear? No, call me and let me know. But many people, particularly right where, and this is important to be mindful about for yourselves, that you don't, when you get into, your careers and you get like, your family life, that you don't isolate yourself so much where the only people you're interacting with on a regular basis, you are children. So a lot of times people like engage in social media because, yeah, that's their only contact with the outside world. But the thing is, as we talked about many times, Michael, that ain't really the outside world. So you have to be very mindful about that. Again, social media has its place. I got a social media account. I'll check in my page again a couple minutes before I came on the class. But I ain't finna be living on there. And I understand again that, it's very much attached from the real world. I wanted to get this here so y'all can get these notes while I'm running my mouth and everything, but I'll go back in a moment. Maisha Haynesworth.
I just kind of wanted to add something what Ron's theory was. Okay, so now I work at a prison. So and I hear a lot of stories from the correctional officers of like how inmates literally like just go crazy because of the things they have to deal with in there as an inmate, and how COs go crazy even though they go home every day. It's still an isolation mentality with them because the only people they really get to interact with most of the time are inmates.
Absolutely.
And so that was like, I was like getting told stories today of like how harsh it is when you go really back there behind those walls.
Absolutely.
With those inmates.
Right. Keep this in mind, my criminal justice people. I'm teaching intro to corrections now. And that's one of the things we talk about, that a lot of times, again, we just like, okay, lock these people away and just, they're horrible criminals. These people are human beings. And we need to but the prisons have been designed in very deliberate and scientific ways that manipulate human behavior. They just do. I understand that these things can be very helpful and beneficial for us as human beings. Not again, just the students want to pass this class, but again, like people are trying to so since y'all ain't seen Higher Learning, y'all probably never seen Get Me to the Greek. It was Jonah Hill was in that film. Okay, word. So in Give Me the Greek, you may recall, Michael, that there was a scene where Puffy was talking to Jonah Hill and he was talking about mind fucking him. He's like, look, I'm mind fucking you right now. And then Jonah Hill's like, well, I hope you're using a condom because I have a pretty dirty mind. It's a really funny joke, but that's neither here nor there. But the point was that like people manipulate you and make you do things you don't want to do, or manipulate, like your parents will use psychology to motivate you to do things that are beneficial for you. So they can work in both ways. Understanding these things are really important, and even the biological aspect that again, that these things, there are certain things that we learn. Other things, again, terror management theory is how we're so programmed to try and preserve our life that we create psychological myths for ourselves that kind of gives us more resiliency to do that. To make ourselves, because again, so when you talk about going crazy, even Maisha Haynesworth, it is important for all of us to understand how incredibly fragile the mind is. We understand that any one of us are maybe just a thread away from quote unquote going crazy, right? We understand that, correct? It is the world is particularly the world we're living in, and the people and the people that we are and living in this world is a tough place. It takes a lot to maintain your psyche and self-esteem daily. So, with this in mind, it is really like, I think these theories, which none of these theories explain human behavior and development of self 100%. But this terror management theory speaks to that, even people denying COVID as is actually existing. Some of that might be related to this, where I don't want to even entertain the notion that this thing is as dangerous as it may be, because the thoughts of that are just too depressing and debilitating. Maisha Hainsworth.
I just had a question. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Oh yeah, I just had a question back on the terror management theory. So it says biologically programmed, but my question was like, is that kind of like something like when a child grows up and their parents have their life planned out for them, and if they don't kind of meet those expectations, I know that's not biological, but is that a part of like self-preservation? Because like, I don't know if you can.
I mean, in some ways, but that's definitely going to be more environmentally induced. What it could speak to is how oftentimes our sense of self can be directed by others, where people may choose a career or a life path that once they get adults, they realize, you know what, this is actually what my parents wanted me to do, as opposed to what I actually wanted to do. Like, I know people my age that have gone down that track, and we'll talk about those things as well. And again, whether it be biologically related, there are many, many studies that speak to how a positive self-image produces happier, healthy, and more productive and successful people. And again, your self-esteem can be just falsely inflated. I have I have self-esteem as a writer because I've gotten positive affirmation, and I've gotten my writing has been well received. And that helps me to become more successful as a writer going forward. If I feel good about the process, I'm more productive, Jakira, because I want to do it more because, I feel good. Again, where somebody might kill that, Steph Curry, because he's such a successful shooter and successful free throw shooter, he might shoot all day. Somebody like Shaquille O'Neal, Dwight Howard, and pardon me if you're not a basketball fan, they might not put as much time into it because they already feel like they're associated with a negative experience. Negative self-images, conversely, tend to lead to us being more depressed or pessimistic about the future, and it makes us fail more. Now, again, we all feel bad at times, and it is totally okay to give yourself room and space to do that. But again, we've all heard this talk about, man, I don't want to be around no negative energy. And some of this is like, look, I can have you having a down day, Michael, but if you just all down on yourself all the time, man, and you're not doing anything to try and get, again, if you're feeling down about yourself, please get help in terms of trying to restore your mental health. But just, coming around all negative and depressed and sad, nah, dog. I mean, that brings energy into other people that's not always well received. Now, again, we want to be our full selves around our people. So if you're feeling depressed, you should own that. But you also want to be mindful of how these things can not only, and less about them even transferring to other people, you want to be mindful, Jakir, about how that can shape your reality. I'm just not good at math. So I already know I ain't finna do good in this math class. Like what? Just that. You've already, here's another way of thinking about it. Okay, I know math isn't my best subject. So I'm gonna work really hard in this class. I'm gonna get help to make sure I do everything I can. A quick story, Jakir, when I was in grad school, we had to take statistics. My statistics skills were not as advanced as it's a murder. And I waited for a while because I was intimidated by it. We got this pre-test on our first day, and the teacher looked at the pre-test and he looked at the scores, and based upon those scores, he was like, okay, he called me and another cat, a Puerto Rican dude. He called us into the hallway and was like, look, I think y'all, based on these scores, I think y'all should probably drop this class. Yeah, I don't, it's a really heavy class. I don't know if you're gonna be able to really, move forward in this. I'm like, dude, go sit your ass down, man. I'm gonna pass this damn class. No, my statistics and math skills are not the strongest, but my work ethic is damn strong. So whatever gaps I have, Ron, I'm gonna figure that out. You teach the class and you let me worry about this. Well, then you do. I gotta be in that damn class. Tell me to drop the class. Ain't you crazy? Anyway. So it's okay to not be as confident in a certain area. Like we all have that. Ain't none of us perfect. There are many things I am not good at. Many. Like something going wrong with my car, Michael. I ain't got the self-esteem to be, trying to get in. And we finna take that boy to a mechanic. My self-esteem ain't that good. I might be able to work it out, but I'm not that confident. There are, as you may imagine, gender and racial differences in self-esteem. So when it comes to like ability and stuff like that, like, again, I see this, not always, but with many male and female students. I be having brilliant, bright female students who be questioning down themselves all the time. A lot of that is culture. Our society, and we're getting better with this, our society has not encouraged the intelligence and academic aptitude and professional aptitude of women. Almost at no point in our history. And we ain't just finna get fake self-esteem. In Maisha, like if you're doing something that's incorrect, I'm gonna let you know. But I also would encourage you all to really accept and own the things that you're really good at. Men oftentimes, again, we have a higher self-esteem when it comes to our physical appearance. Even if we ugly and fat as hell, can't tell us we ain't fly. Our athletic skills and everything, get me on the court right now, even in my advanced age. I'm gonna tell you, I'm finna get a triple-double, Ron. Can't none of y'all 19-year-olds guard me. Tear my damn ACL out there. Women have higher self-esteem when it comes to morality. Morality speaks to doing the right thing and just whether or not you're a good or bad person. So women see themselves often in high regard in that way. Ironically enough, African Americans actually have, and again, this is research. Everything that we're presenting here has been researched and there's evidence for. Keep these things in mind. Yet on average, African Americans have a higher self-esteem in America than our Caucasian counterparts. You would think, again, having everything in the world, and not all white people. Let me be very precise in my speaking. There are many white people, again, who struggle a great deal in this country, most. But it is a lot different than the Black experience day to day. So culture, again, and I'm not sure, again, how much this has always been true, but definitely in recent decades and everything where, and going to HBCUs and things like that, and I think even in many of our families and communities, there's been a very deliberate effort amongst our generation and your generation, I think was not always true, to really be proud in our Blackness. Being Black is very difficult. I love being Black. Especially when I see people when they 75, 80 years old. Do a Google search on Tina Turner. She's in her 70s, definitely in her 70s by now. It's crazy. All right, so look here, right? This is some really important stuff here. When we talk about ourselves, and make sure you go back to the early parts of this chapter to really get the foundations of this. In many ways, Michael, this notion of self-discrepancy theory, When you hear when you hear that word discrepancy, what does that mean? When you hear the word discrepancy,
I think about like discrepancy is kind of like differences or like, you know, inaccuracy in a sense.
very good, Ron. Very good. So there's a difference, according to this theory, between your actual self, Shakira, your alt self, and your ideal self. Now follow me here, Maisha Hainsworth. Your actual self, the traits that describe who you actually are, the person that you really is. Your alto self, the traits that will enable you to meet your sense of duty, obligation, and responsibility. I ought to read this chapter. I ought to get started on my rough draft. I ought to, like, you know, reach out to my professor, like, you know, during office hours. I ought to come to class. That's what I ought to do. What do you actually do, Ron? Not what you told me to do. Like, oh yeah, I got the whole, read the whole full chapters, Dr. Muhammad. Okay. These are the selves that we present to the world, because as we'll talk about, human beings are very concerned about how we present to other people. That's not a bad thing always. Again, I need you to be aware when you go into this job interview of how, you know, you may be presented this. If you go to court, you need to be aware of how the jury may be seeing you. When you're annoying your girlfriend, I need you to be like, hey, dog, I know you keep, I know you want to share these stories about your old girlfriend. I'm in the back like, hey, dog, stop. No. I don't think she's reacting well to those stories, Michael. Like, you might need to chill on that one, dog. And we see this again, people, again, that don't have any kind of clue at all of how they're being perceived by others. We don't want to be like that. But we also have an ideal self. My ideal self, Jakira, is somebody that wants to work out 3 to 5 times a week. I want to read a book every 2 weeks. My ideal self would like to drink a lot less Red Bull. My ideal self would like to be a little bit more patient. I don't want to totally lose my patience. It has some value. So I have, like, you know, my ideal self, where the self that I might want to be 5 years, 10 years from now. The ideal self that, you know, your ideal self, Michael, is driving a certain type of car, working a certain type of job, making a certain amount of money, with a certain type of lifestyle. You know, practically that as, you know, a 21-year-old, however old you may be, it may not be practical for that to happen. Most 20-year-olds are not at that stage yet. So your self-esteem ain't gonna be beat up too much about that at 21. Now, if you have not achieved and I hope everybody got an ideal self, right? Because a lot of people don't think about this stuff. Like, again, many human beings on this planet, and some of it is understood, just go day-to-day, moment to moment. But part of, again, we talked about introspection before, Maisha, in our previous lectures. That part of introspection is looking at, okay, who is the creator that I would really like to be? What are my limits on that right now? Yes, I want to stop drinking, more Red Bull. I want to drink less Red Bulls, Jakira. The structure of my life right now, that probably ain't gonna happen. Too much stuff to do, not enough hours in a day. But I'm gonna get there one day. I want to just be able to sleep and not have to be just working around the clock like this. But I understand that that's not my ideal. And I want to make an account of, like, you know, what I can do to get to that ideal. But to get to that ideal self, Maisha, I need to be honest about who my actual self is. And many human beings, Ryan, have great difficulty doing that. Yeah, we all got friends like this, right? I ought to do this. I ought to do that. I should do this. And next time they talk to them, it's like 5 new alts. Our self-esteem is harmed in this way, Michael, because there can be a gap or discrepancy, Ron, a difference between our ideal self and our actual self. We're going to get bumped out in a minute. I have 3:05. We're going to log back in at 3:15. But Michael, finish your point real quick before we get bumped out. We're going to log back in at 3:15 after Michael closes us out.
Oh, it wasn't nothing major. I was just reading that last bullet point where it said self-esteem is lowered by the degree to which the actual self falls short of the alt and the ideal selves. It kind of reminded me of, we talked about it, it might have been like a week or two ago, where we was talking about the how it might be like we're in class and we like go up to the board and like answer a problem and we think we got it right and then we get it wrong and everybody like laughing or whatever, and it kind of make you feel bad. Like, it kind of made me just think about that a little bit, how to kind of relate.
That's a good example. And it's a delicate balance with education where it's like, look, if you're doing something incorrectly, it is my job to tell you that. But I also have to be mindful of not crushing your self-esteem to the point where it makes you not try. So that is a very delicate balance to strike. We'll continue this discussion on the other side. Great comments so far. Look at your notes, skim through this chapter. I'll see y'all on the other side at 3:15 sharp.